you know what time it is. It's your favorite social media coach, Melle Howard. Coach Melle in the building with your favorite cool uncle, Uncle Flood, and they're going to take you inside the game. So sit down, relax, get your favorite beverage, and hang as they take you across the SWAT, especially in Southern University football and professional sports as they talk Monday Night Football here on Inside the Game. All right, let's get into it.
What up, what up, what up? We back.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
Well, welcome back, stranger.
Yeah, I'm back. They couldn't keep me away. Especially with everything that's happening today. They couldn't keep me away. What's going on?
No, it's good to have you back. You left me here by my last week to suffer alone after that devastating loss. So it's good to have you back and on better terms.
Yes.
So we are some way, somehow, we keep finding a way.
Cardiac cat strike again, man. The cardiac cat strike again. They find a way to make it hard.
They find a way to make it hard. They find a way to stress me out. They find a way to, but listen, like I tell everybody, 1-0. Every week we just got to go 1-0. If we just keep going 1-0, a lot of great things can happen. So shout out to the Jaguars for defeating the Pound Puppies 25-20 over in Huntsville, Alabama. What you got to say about the game, Mo?
Man, it was one of those games. You had some good moments that they really looked nice. They really got that. It seemed like they were getting some things together. And then you had those moments where, you just were like, what are they doing? But I can say this. They played, for the most part, they played really good complementary football. The offense scored when they needed to score. The defense got stops when they needed to. Special teams, they were okay. They weren't great. Josh didn't seem to have his focus when he first started, but he seemed to gather himself, and he was there when we really needed him. Mm-hmm. So, all in all, this was a positive game. Now it's about building and moving on to the next game and building and continuing the positive things that we saw from the A&M game.
Yeah, that's what I'll tell folks. Like, I think when you think about it's hard, it's easy to look at the, what have you done for me lately? But when you look at the collective whole of like the last 3 games, like we more likely than not show positive signs of what could be, of what could happen if we put together a complete effort. And this discredits A&M, like we should have won the game, but we've been inconsistent. That was a long road trip, traveling that far 2 weeks in a row. Like that takes a lot. No band, no cheerleaders again. Like energy, like you got, create your own energy. But yeah, so it's one of those things. But so shout out to the team. They got it done when they needed to get it done. Shout out to the folks who made the trip to Huntsville. We had us a grand old time. We made a lot of noise. We were louder than A&M people.
Definitely. Yeah, and like I said, this is a game. Hopefully, you don't want to get too high with the highs and too low with the lows. Hopefully, this is something that they can take and build on. I thought the biggest thing for this game was the players T set.
Yeah.
Xavier T set. I thought that was the biggest thing about this game. It allowed, we finally got him an opportunity to play a full game.
Yeah.
And he started out. It didn't look good when he started out. He was missing some receivers there. He was making some bad reads and missing some receivers, and it didn't look good. But all of a sudden, he found his rhythm. You could see the rush kind of shake off. And that second half, he played much better. From about the second quarter on, he was a much better quarterback.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to talk to his mom after the game. So shout out to mom, shout out to Miss C said, and that's the kind of things that we talked about. Just the idea of like, wanting to see him get an opportunity to have a complete opportunity to play the full game, to go through the progressions of what it is to have a good game, to like knock off some of the rust. And he really found his way in. I mean, it ended with a stellar performance. And I also want to just give a shout out to the entire quarterback room. So Noah didn't get to start this week and was still on the sideline coaching, calling plays, like, being a team player. And that's one of the things me and Miss T said had an opportunity to talk about just like the idea of like how they've been able to keep their brotherhood even when people have tried to pit them against one another. Like their teammates, we need everybody, all 11, all people who on the sidelines to be great. Shout out to Chandler Whitfield, who's also been hurt for the last few games and was there coaching and just being involved with what we want to see from a championship caliber team. So we got the job done, and I am really excited about coming back to Mumford. And every game is a road game for me, but coming back to Mumford and being in front of our home fans, having the band back, having the whole atmosphere back. So looking forward to Saturday at 2:00. But shout out to the Pound Puppies. Shout out to Jen and crew and everybody for taking care of us in A&M. And we appreciate the love and look forward to a great rest of the season. So we'll get right into the show. And I think our game balls is first. Jen, I would mind. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say my game ball goes to. I'm gonna leave this to. Well, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, but I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I'm not giving game balls. I'm giving players of the week to two people. I'm giving it to Zay Set because of the way he played in that game. He came out and he ended up playing a stellar game, 24 for 37 for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I want to give him my player of the game. But I also want to give my players of the game to the 9 West crew and everybody who made the trip, including Tremel, who made the trip up there, because that was a long trip, a courageous trip. And y'all did y'all thing, because I saw y'all on TV, so y'all were definitely in the building.
No, I appreciate that, Unc, and that's what I was going to do for mine too. So we on one accord here. Yes. No, it was great. Shout out to the people pitching in here. These are my 9W friends and family. We made the journey from all over the world: Pensacola, Houston, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, to Huntsville, and the folks who came on the buses. It was great. We had, I think Brittany said it earlier, this was probably one of the best atmosphere games for a road game with no band, no cheerleaders, because the people who were there for the game and to be supportive. I mean, we did band songs, we did fight songs, we played. It was great. So shout out to everybody who made that trip. The team was appreciative of it. They could see us, they could hear us. And it was good. I watched the game back on TV last night, and you could really hear us as making a difference. And so that's what it's all about. So shout out to the people who made that trip, and we look forward to the next journey. And to your point of your other game ball, ZT said, I mean, I think for me, one of the things that I look for most, not just in how well a player plays, but the character of a player. And he has shown since last season just great character by just waiting his turn, waiting for his opportunity, and being ready when his name was called. And so I really appreciate just that about a player. I think sometimes we lose that because we're so quick to judge how they play on the field. But like at the end of the day, a part of being in this program is also raising young men. And he has shown complete character from beginning to end. And so shout out to Zay. The sky's the limit. I've been telling people since the beginning of the season, like this will be his program, and his opportunity will come. And so it's came, and I really look forward to what he can do as a hometown hero for our program. Nothing warms my heart more than the Scotlandville to Southern Lab connection. So shout out to Demo, who caught a couple of those touchdowns. I mean, it's just great to see the hometown heroes taking Southern football on their back end and producing. And so look forward to what's to come with that. Any other thoughts about the game, Mark, as we think?
And by the way, hopefully in a few minutes, our man Jim Klein-Peter from The Advocate is going to join us, and we're going to talk some more Southern University football, talk some more about the game, and get Jim's point of view of how he sees this team, how he sees this game, because he's been covering Southern football now for about the last 6 or 7 years for NOLA, for the Advocate, NOLA.com. And he has a unique perspective, being the veteran guy who's being the beat writer. And so I want to get his perspective on this game and, Zay said and what he sees for the future for this team, because they have it all in front of them. Yeah. They control their destiny. So we'll see how that goes, man.
I think Jim is here. And before we bring Jim on, I was reading his beat because, he does the beat right before the game with like the prediction. And so I was sharing it with some of the people who was coming to the game, and we were like, we cannot have another game like this. And I think he was spot on. I think his prediction was something like 27-24 or something like that. And it was 25. And it was as stressful as he said it would be and all the things. So shout out to Jim. I've been reading those since I was a little kid. And sometimes I'm like, Jim, you're killing me with this one. But like, I appreciate that. I love how he predicts it. And then at the end, you get a scorecard. And so I think Jim is here. And so let's bring Jim on and see what Jim has to say about our Jaguars. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Jim.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, Jim? How are you?
This is a first. I'm doing great, man.
You did well. You did well, Jim.
You did well, man. Look, Jim, did you see the picture that I picked of you?
Yeah, that's an old one.
Yes. I had one even better than that, even older than that, but they didn't put it up. So, but I picked the old one from you. So I figured you'd get a kick out of that.
Times-Picayune days.
Yes. Jim, you pretty much have been calling the shots on this team this whole season, man. Kind of give us, your overview or your feeling about this team. We look at it and we see it one way, but you have the ability, and you kind of neutral. So you have a unique ability to be able to see things that some of us may not see.
Well, it's funny. I've been right about this team, I think, since before the season, because I said what was going to happen is they were going to depend on their defense while the offense kind of got it together, and they figured out who their quarterback was, and that the defense would carry the team until the offense got it together. And really, that's kind of what's happened. I've been a little bit disappointed in like special teams. They've had a lot of mistakes on special teams this year, more than in the past. I've been covering the team for 5 years, a little over 5 years now, and they got some good special teams performers, but other than that, it's like, and the thing about this past game is like, I really feel like the final piece has fallen into place. You kind of hope that this would have been what happened in the Jackson State game when T-Set finally got the nod, and then he got hurt, and then it just kind of pushed them back. Their development got pushed back. And I'm not saying that he would have been as good as he was Saturday in the games in the middle of the season. But you can see that he's got the ability to forget about how old he is to make things happen. Mm-hmm. And he's got poise, which is, I think, the number one thing you need before you go out there and take a snap. And he's got that in huge amounts.
Yes. Yeah, I like you said, the poise definitely matters. And it seemed like early in the game, because he hasn't played much, and it seems like he's been put in some pressure situations where he's been forced to produce, like in the Texas Southern game when they pulled Noah out and put him in, which wasn't conducive to him playing well. And I think that kind of set him back. But once he got his feet under him, and after the first quarter, I think you saw the real Xavier T-Set and what the potential could be for him if he continues on. And then one thing I'm kind of cautious about, we had the same conversation about Noah Biden after the Alcorn game, and so I'm really cautious about that. I think Bethune may be the perfect opponent though, coming into town.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask Jim. Is like, as you think about like the upcoming opponents, with the potential we've seen from T-Set, what do you think as a prediction of what's to come?
Well, the next two teams they play, their defenses are on the lower end of the SWAC, the statistics, statistically anyway. So, especially Bethune, they're in the bottom two in most categories defensively, whether it's scoring or yards or rushing yards allowed, passing yards allowed, things like that. So, I don't see why he wouldn't play as well or better in these next two games as he did Saturday. And Reggie, you mentioned the Texas Southern game, and it did set him back, but I think that was probably good for him. It was a good learning experience. It was something for him to build off of. And Coach Graves told me that he wasn't nervous. He was just just a little too excited. Maybe wanting to make that throw. Maybe, in the Alabama A&M game, he came out and in that first series, he didn't make that mistake. He was 1 out of his first 6 or 7 and 2 out of 8. So he still had something, the speed of the game, he had to catch up to that a little bit. And then, from the second quarter on, he was lights out.
Yeah. Now, Jim, the one thing I don't want to overlook is the play of the offensive line. And we talk about the quarterback situation, but the offensive line play especially in terms of running the ball, has drastically improved. What is your look at that? What is your thought about that?
Yeah, I'm real surprised. It's not very seldom you see a team. Well, I don't know, 4 or 5 games into the season, they just take out 3 starters and put in 3 new starters. And and you know what's funny? You saw it in the Florida A&M game. Usually when the offensive line plays well, the rest of the offense plays well. But the offensive line played well in that game, and so did the running backs. But Noah didn't, and it was just frustrating to watch that because they ran the ball effectively, and every time they got to 3rd and 2, I don't know, he couldn't seem to convert. So this game, you didn't have that. Everybody benefited, and the offensive line played well again. And it's amazing because they've got a true freshman out there at right tackle, and got a redshirt freshman at right guard. And wow, I mean, there's a returning starter at center who got taken out of the lineup. So it's pretty amazing when you think about how far that unit has come.
Yeah, they've come a long way. Another guy who I think the expectations have exceeded what's going on this season or what's happened for him. But Kelby Givens, I think he's had a monster of a season, but it's kind of been overshadowed because of the expectations. But he's actually having a really good season now, but it's not being recognized as much.
Yeah, he's getting double teamed
all the time.
And I saw the replay of the final play against of the Alabama A&M game, and I was trying to see. I'm pretty sure he was the one putting pressure on the quarterback.
He was,
and you know what he did is he extended that play with that pressure, and instead of getting off 2 plays in 7 seconds, they only got 1.
Mm-hmm.
So he has been relentless, and he's relentless as on the final play of the game as he is on the first.
Exactly.
And he has created.
Oh goodness, we lost Jim. But yeah, Jim was talking about Kelby Givens, and I just think Kelby's been playing lights out considering the spotlight and everything that's been on him. And the teams have been focusing on him in terms of double teams, even though he only has 4 sacks up to this point, but he's leading the team in tackles for losses. He is up. I think he's in the top 5 in tackle for losses in the conference. He's in the top 5 or 6 in sacks. And he's just been wreaking havoc. Just his presence has been wreaking havoc. I mean, he should have gotten Jim is back with us. Good to have you back with us, Jim. It was late in that game. There should have been an intentional grounding call.
And 10-second runoff. And a 10-second runoff. But they had no timeout.
And they didn't call it. They said he was outside of the tackle box. And I was like, he is the tackle box.
He is the tackle.
He was not outside of him, but SWAC officiating, I shouldn't say SWAC officiating, officiating period across the country is bad.
Yeah, and you know what? Earlier in the drive, the Langford crossed the line of scrimmage on the throw, and I think it was on that 4th down throw. He should have been penalized there too.
And they went to review that and said that he didn't cross. There was no flag for illegal forward pass because he didn't cross the line of scrimmage. And we looking like, are you kidding me?
Well, see, I think what happened was, now I said he crossed the line of scrimmage too, and I thought that was the initial call. But what ends up happening, his whole body your entire body has to be across the line, and they determined that his whole body was not across the line. That he had one foot. Yes. I
remember a play like that at LSU. The LSU quarterback, I think his 1 foot was behind the line. His whole body except for one of his feet. and they
That's
didn't
right.
call it because of that. So maybe you're right.
Yeah, so
I
that's
don't
kind
know
of
what
what
they were
happened.
looking at. There was a couple of spots that I was like, are you sure? But Jim, as you think about just the predictions of the season and what we've seen to this point, what are your give us an insight on your predictions of the rest of the Southern season?
Well, I think that I won't. I probably won't pick the score to be as close as I did last week.
Please don't.
I have a feeling Southern's good enough now, and their confidence is going to grow, and they've got a chance to win by 2 scores. So it's just saying a lot. They're not blowing anybody out this year. So
Yeah.
But I think that game is gonna. I think it's gonna resonate with the whole team. It's gonna resonate with the defensive players. I mean, the way the offense played, and they're gonna think better of themselves. They're gonna be better in these going down the stretch. They've got two teams that don't play great defense. And Grambling is, the Bayou Classic's always going to be tough. But Southern has a chance to clinch the division title this Saturday. If Alcorn and Pine Bluff both lose and Southern wins, they've clinched it with 2 weeks to play, which is pretty amazing when you consider how hard it is to get on. I watch these SWAC games, and man, these teams just really grind and sweat to get a win, and so you can't really take any of them for granted. And I think Coach Graves does a good job of getting that across to his team.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. So, well, Jim, before we let you go, I just want to say kudos to you because not a lot of people know this, but this is your last season covering Southern.
Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet. I was kind of holding out about a 5% chance that I might stay, but the Advocate has made a decision to hire somebody and they're going to have a full-time guy on the beat, and I'll still be around doing some freelance for him and maybe get a Southern game now and then, which will always be fun because I really enjoy these 5 years. It's it's been a different atmosphere. So.
Well, Jim,
you're always a welcome at Southern, Jim.
Always
least in this time when you come, if you're not working, you can enjoy a cold one because I know you enjoy a cold one every now and then when you're not working.
You bet. I have to watch them, but I'll slip one in every now and then.
Well, Jim, we're gonna still need those predictions on your Facebook at least. I've been reading those since I was 7 years old, so I need them at least on Facebook to kind of get my mind right for the games. Just give us that, Jim.
Sounds good.
Hey, well, Jim, I just want to say thank you for the service that you've done in covering Southern. You've done a bang-up job in getting out and getting the stories and giving full coverage to Southern. So I just I said that because I wanted to be able to give you your props and let people know that to give you your flowers, that you might not be back, you might not be around, but you've done it well. You've done a hell of a job, and we'll still be seeing you. And of course, you always have a space here on this show. You always have a spot.
Well, I appreciate you saying all that, Reggie. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Joe. Have a good one, man.
Appreciate
you. All right, my man, Jim Klein, Peter. Yeah, I put that picture up there as a little joke to Jim. I thought he'd get a kick out of that. But yeah, Jim's a good guy. Done a good job covering Southern.
He has. I mean, like I said, that those beat rights before the games with the score prediction, like literally, that was the first article I used to get up and read on Saturday mornings just to see what you had to say like that. That's literally top tier. Inspiration for the Coach Melle Report. So shout out to Jim for that. That was great.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so we had some other action in the SWAC.
So what did we learn?
What did we learn is the question of the hour, and we will let me pull up my cheat sheet because man, there was some very interesting things that happened this weekend, and so we can start if my cheat sheet ever comes up. Here we go.
By the way, while we're looking for that, I don't want to forget our sponsors, the Southern University Office of Enrollment Management. They are part of our sponsorship. They sponsor our players of the game, players of the week. So we want to give a big shout out to the Southern University Office of Enrollment Management. You want to register at Southern, go to Southern University SUBR.org or .edu. I'm sorry, not .org.
No.
.edu. Yes. SouthernUniversity.edu. Go to the Office of Enrollment Management, and they'll take care of you over there. They are the driving force behind Southern University and bringing in new students and keeping the students involved. So the Office of Southern University Enrollment Management, shouts out to them. And for those people who want to look for us who want to listen to us in Alexandria and in the middle of the state, KTTP 1110 AM. You can download the KTTP app and listen to us whenever you want to, or listen to us on that station. We're on from 10 to 11 every Saturday morning. So make sure you join Inside the Game as our affiliates grow. So make sure you join the KTTP 1110 AM in Alexandria.
And last thing before I mention I want to talk about our other swag schools. We are also now on YouTube, so you can listen to us YouTube Live. You can connect us to YouTube, follow us, subscribe to our page, and listen directly. So all of the channels Inside the Game is growing, and it is growing because of you guys. And at the end of the show, we'll show you how you can get directly involved with Inside the Game. So shout out to all of y'all. It's great to see where we have become in such a short period of time. Right. So other swag games. So the first one is my heart broke for this particular game. I've been telling y'all for weeks that Valley was gonna get somebody, that they was gonna sneak up on somebody.
We've been hoping.
We have been hoping. And when the last update before this score went final, I was like, see, Valley finally got somebody in. They got a pretty decent somebody. But Purview ended up squeaking out that game. Purview 17, Mississippi Valley 16. Any thoughts on that game, Long?
If there was anybody who didn't deserve to squeak out a game, it would be Purview. They're too good of a team athletically to be as bad as they are. Yeah. Honestly, they have really good players. They're just too good athletically to be as bad as they are. And I wish Valley would have gotten them. Valley just seems to be, for lack of a better word, snake bitten. Maybe they're bitten by the devils. I don't know. It's the curse of the devils or something. I don't know, but I sure was hoping that they were able to get a victory. They weren't. Purview squeaked out the win, and so it's Valley and Grambling at the bottom of the league.
Valley and Grambling, with Valley being better because they have a better band, but we'll talk about that later. In two other games that were no surprise, you had Jackson State all over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 41-3. No homecoming hangover for Jackson State. They completely dominated that game from beginning to end, and are on track to win the Eastern Division. In another Eastern-Western Division game, you had FAMU over Texas Southern. Texas Southern scored a lot more points than we did in Tallahassee, but yes. FAMU pretty much, again, no homecoming hangover, won that game 52-28. I don't think there's any surprises there. Any thoughts to add to those two games?
No, I wasn't surprised. I kind of was surprised the way Texas Southern kind of found their way in the second quarter and put some points on the board against FAMU. But FAMU, it never was really a threat. They came out and handled their business. I just, nothing really major about it, but I was surprised at how many points Texas Southern was able to put up.
Yes. So the other games, it's pretty surprising here. I'm going to do that one last. So Alabama State 21, Alcorn 17.
Yeah, close game. I watched the end of that game. Alabama State tried to give it away. They did everything they could do to keep Alcorn in the game and help them out. But I think Alabama State played well considering their quarterback situation. Hail Mary that fell short for Alcorn. They caught it at the 4-yard line and couldn't get it in the end zone. Hail Mary falls short. Alabama State gets the victory. I tell you what, the setup this week for Alabama State and Jackson, Alabama State plays championship level defense. They play last place offense. I think this is going to be an interesting setup, and I know we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But this is going to be interesting between Alabama State and Jackson State coming up. But the Alcorn game, Alcorn is one of those teams. They're right on the edge of being a really good team. They lost some really close games this year.
Yeah, that Hail Mary was sad to see. I thought Alcorn was going to squeak that out. And to your point, we have Jackson plays Valley this weekend, but then at
Yeah,
Alabama
say
State
Valley.
and Jackson State game is going to be, I mean, that's going to be very interesting. And if that can create a lot of chaos in the East if that game goes one way, but we'll talk about that later. And then last, but certainly not least, our sisters up north, sisters and brothers up north, Bethune-Cookman 24, Grambling 21. Before you even give your take on, I will just like to say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. When those folks hired Dooley as their offensive coordinator, I said, listen, y'all, I've been living this. I've been living this for 2 years, and I don't know. I don't think there's been much evolution. And it's unfortunate because everybody was rooting for Coach Dooley to come back to Southern to be successful. But for me, it's a stubbornness stuck in his ways, and now it seems to have carried over to Grambling. Coach Joseph was on his press conference a couple weeks ago talking about how he was getting more involved with the offense, et cetera, and now it seems to be those same old things that plagued us between playing the right quarterback, et cetera, have made their way to Grambling. They, after beating Jackson State, talked about a restoration order, but that has been seen null and void, insufficient funds. So, Coach, tell me about that game.
Well, you know, I had a chance to go back because I saw the commentary around this game, so I wanted to go back and look at it so I could form my own opinion on it. And as much as I was disappointed in Coach Dooley stay here at Southern, I can't put this game on Coach Dooley. Like, there's enough blame to go around in this game. You gave up a 14-point lead. You gave up a 2-possession lead twice. You're driving down the field to go down and take the lead with 8 or 9 minutes left in the game, and your running back gets a 15-yard penalty that sets you back again, that sets him back. This was as much of a player's loss. It was enough blame to go around in this game for Grambling.
Yeah.
And I think it just speaks volumes to the work that Coach Joseph has to do there. Like, and I'll be honest with you about this. I'm honest with you about a lot of, but this is one thing that I have to say. The staff that he's assembled there, in terms of discipline, from my observation, this staff cannot instill discipline because not only does he have Coach Eric Dooley there on staff, but he also has former Southern interim coach Jason Rollins there on staff as his defensive coordinator. Neither one of those coaches are disciplinarians.
Yeah.
Neither one of them. And so the lack of discipline that Grambling has shown is not surprising to me. And that's not saying that those guys aren't good football coaches. It's just that discipline is not their forte. It's not what they do. You know, so I think that's one of the things Coach Joseph is really going to have to look at, taking control and instilling some discipline, because Grambling really lost that game. It wasn't necessarily because of coaching decisions. It was more so because of lack of discipline on that team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the thing that I think is often overlooked when it comes to two teams. Like, a disciplined team can take you a long way. That means you're not getting, flags unnecessarily, preserving drives, stopping drives. And in this generation is a whole different and that's a whole different show. We can have a show about generations. This generation of players is just different when it comes to like celebrations, when it comes to all of these different things. And so that's unfortunate. I mean, I hate to see it, but it's also kind of chuckly.
Definitely. Especially when it's them. Especially when it's them.
Especially when it's them, because I mean, especially after I'll go back to the Nickel State game. They had so much to say about what we did, what we looked like, what this and that. And it is literally fumbling. But, Bayou Classic, they're going to come out like they're a Super Bowl team, and it's going to be a competitive game like always. So you could throw the records out the window for Bayou Classic. But until then, get well soon, Grambling. So looking forward to next week. I guess we can start with the obvious. Southern and Bethune. Who you got, Unc? Are you going with your heart or your mind this week?
My heart and my mind says I'm rolling with the Jags on this one. Okay. I think Bethune I think Southern has some kind of thing over Bethune. I really do. I think Bethune is kind of intimidated by Southern. Now, I don't know that for sure, but I'm rolling with the Jags on this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I pick Southern every week, so nothing different for me this week. But yeah, I think that this is our opportunity to have a game where we can kind of like not be lax, but we can come out, dominate, and we have a lot of things in front of us, and so we should have a game where we can dominate an opponent and show and just have our will, have our way in Mumford, returning back to Mumford after a long road trip, like and make our way. So I think that we get this game. 2:00 game, so that's different. I hate day games in Mumford, but 2:00 game on Saturday. So be there. Go
Yes.
game. Mississippi Valley State and Jackson. I know we've been praying for Valley to get one. It won't be this week in the vet, but I think we both have Jackson State in that game.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jackson State. As much as I like to see Valley come up and surprise, I know Jackson State has that kind of swagger and that kind of initiative. They're going to come out and sledgehammer on the net and try to take Valley out of it early.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat box before we go to the next game that says, "Hey guys, how does the return of Chandler we feel looks offensively for the Jags?" Chandler looks fine on the sideline, and he looks like he's moving and work. But there's no word on his return. I don't see it coming anytime soon. But that could be something different in there. He obviously will be a weapon to our offense. Like he's one of those get in the ball, make a play kind of people, returners and everything. But I don't foresee him coming back anytime soon.
I know Coach Graves, the last time when they asked him about it last week, they said he probably wouldn't be available this week, but in the coming week or so, he may be available. So we may see his return this week, maybe against Pine Bluff. I don't know, but he, like you said, he looks to be fine just walking around in street clothes, but they say he has some kind of oblique injury, I think it is. And so that could take a minute. Obviously, it's taking a while to heal, so we don't know exactly when he's coming back. But Coach Graves has said that they plan for him to be back soon.
Yeah, and I mean, even if he's not, I mean, obviously we want him back in the game because he makes a difference. But his energy on the sideline has been amazing to see. He's still been traveling with the team and calling plays and everybody on P's and Q's. So we look forward to hopefully having him back for this season. So getting back to our games, this is a very interesting game. We have Texas Southern traveling to Alcorn to play against the Braves.
Whew. That's going to be a tough one because Alcorn, it's not going to be anybody in the stadium. It's going to be quiet in that stadium. Texas Southern is a tough team, but being in on the reservation, being at the academic resorts, I got to go with Alcorn in that game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Alcorn in that game too. I think Texas Southern has been close, and in a lot of these games, I mean, barring the most crazy finish I've ever seen, they would have beaten us. So Texas Southern has some upside to them, and I think that they'll be a competitive game. But I think Alcorn gets that one as well. Alabama A&M traveling, make the journey to Arkansas Pine Bluff.
I'm gonna go with A&M just because they can put points on the board. I'm gonna go with A&M.
I'm gonna go with Pine Bluff at home. I think Pine Bluff puts up enough points at home to give A&M that not really much for A&M to get up for. Some turmoil. I'm hearing that they're supposed to be firing the coach soon. I'm hearing they came from the Classic, lost the heartbreak at us at home. I don't see them getting up for that game much. So I'll go Arkansas Pine Bluff. Interesting enough, FAMU is traveling to Purview this week to take on Purview at 2:00 in Houston.
I'm gonna go out of the way. I'm going with my heart. I'm going with my heart on this one. I'm gonna take PV to win a game against FAMU. I'm gonna take PV in the upset just because I want to be contrarian. That's all. No particular reason, but I just want to be contrarian. That's all.
And I want to take Purview in this game too, but I've seen PV just find a way to lose games constantly, and FAMU has always found a way to win games. So I'm going to take FAMU over there, and that would be great for another Western Division foe to go down. And so I think we've covered all those games. What will be probably the game of the week this week is Alabama State in Grambling. 2:00. All of the SWAC games this week are at 2:00. But Alabama State is traveling to the hole to take on Grambling. What you say on?
This is the make it or break it for both of these teams. If Alabama State cannot go in and beat Grambling, that's their season in terms of championship hopes are over. Everything is in front of them. If Grambling comes out and gets blown out in the hole at home against Alabama State or gets beaten against Alabama State, then Coach Joseph, who's only on a 2-year contract, they might as well start that thing all over for next year. They can just shut the shop down and just start all over for next year if they lose to Alabama State. But I want them to show up for the Classic. So win, because I want them to show up for the Classic. Because if they don't, how Grambling fans are. If they don't feel like they have a chance to win the game, they won't show up. So we need them to show up. All right?
The good faithful will be there. So shout out to Auntie Jeannie. She'll be there no matter what. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is a tough game because Alabama State still has a lot of upside to their season, and they can create a lot of chaos with a win this week, and then they play Jackson State next week, and they have an opportunity to create a lot of confusion. And so being that they still have seasons to play for, they're not making this long journey to Grambling for nothing. And I don't pick against Grambling in the hole very rarely, but I'm going to say that Alabama State is going to go there and squeak out a victory by a field goal to keep their hopes alive for a championship.
I'm going with Alabama State too. I just think that Grambling, with their lack of discipline, I don't think they pull it together against the Alabama State team. Alabama State plays defense too well. I think the defense will carry today, and I think Bama State defense travels always. I think Bama State is able to find a way to get a victory.
Well, that is our SWAC recap and our SWAC look forward for the next week. And we have some late breaking news but before we get to our Monday Night Football edition and talking all things breaking news from today as it relates to the NFL, there was a high school story that broke in Baton Rouge today.
Yes.
So a very powerhouse school by the name of University Laboratory School, now going into week 10, has had basically their entire season taken from them, and they are now 0-9. And it is allegedly from some transfer students that came to that came to U High by way of Liberty, and have now been all their wins are gone, and they're at fear of missing the playoffs. So before we transition to the NFL tonight, Coach, tell me, what are your thoughts about that revelation?
Well, first of all, I feel terrible for the kids. I feel terrible for those young people who are out there competing, because almost every time when you look back at these cases, it falls in the laps of the adults who are supposed to be responsible for this. And I've seen this happen with so many schools, especially in the New Orleans area. We saw it happen with Warren Easton. I knew any school was up for grabs once they went after John Curtis. So once John Curtis got it, we've seen it happen with Edna Carr losing a couple of games for using ineligible players. So this has been happening in the last 2 or 3 seasons. It caught up with U High. And like I said, I feel bad for the kids, but I blame it on the adults, because the adults either knowingly or unknowingly, and I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people say, well, I don't think it was their intentions. The adults know what they're doing. Trust me. They just hope to get away with it.
Yeah, no. As someone who've experienced this directly, when it happened to Southern Lab, my heart also goes out to and even when the LHSAA came back and didn't really find any wrongdoing and basically was like, I'm sorry, but like, you've already whatever. I feel so bad for the kids. And I was reading this on a post earlier today that talked about high schools starting to need to have compliance officers as it relates to athletics, as it relates to transfers within these schools. And to your point, I think some of this is knowingly, let's just think and figure out how we can slide by. And some of this is really like a lack of understanding of compliance and what does it mean, especially in a very transit school system where the kids are mobile and moving from school to school, et cetera, et cetera. So I do believe that part of the response from LHSAA should be helping folks get professional development in compliance so that they can be in compliance and at least have the tools to be successful. So my heart goes out to the kids, because for those seniors, like, you don't get that time back. You don't get another season back.
No.
You don't get an opportunity to do this again. And they were having a very good year with the hopes of going back to the Dome and a successful playoff run. According to the article, they're going to appeal it. So we don't know what happens. But my heart goes out to the seniors and adults. Stop making it difficult for these kids as it relates to this.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll have a vigorous appeal and a lot of lawyers on their side, and they'll be okay. I feel bad for the kids, but
they will be.
University High will be just fine. They will be fine.
They will be.
But
okay.
we were talking about the big story that is happening has started out this morning, and luckily I was able to catch up with my guy, so bring him on to talk about this story. And I think he's in queue right now. He's the former Saints coach, now coach of the Houston Rednecks of the UFL. And he's going to join us, Coach Curtis Johnson. Kurt, what's going on, man?
What's up, Coach?
How you doing, Reg? It's the Roughnecks, brother.
It's the Roughnecks, brother. I had Roughnecks in my mind, and I said the other thing, it's the Roughnecks, man. And my bad, man. I had that in my head.
No problem, man. It's good to see you. Good to see you guys, man.
Good to see you, brother.
You do a phenomenal job, both of you guys, man. I'm excited about what you guys got going, man.
Appreciate it, man. Hopefully we can have you involved in it more often, man. But big news today, man. And you, I know as a coach, you don't really you don't want to maybe not get into too much, but you are a former Saints coach. You were there with the Saints for a long time, man. What a day. You've seen guys come and go. What are days like this for a coach and the staff? What is it like?
Well, everyone's anticipating getting some type of reprimand or some type of removal or some type of, I was doing this and I may be doing that, or I may be out, or I may be doing nothing. So everybody's kind of on the phone. Everybody's looking and just waiting to see what's really going on. One thing I think that happened that's a plus for most of the guys there that I know. Riz is now the interim coach, and I'm sure he'll try to keep things as close to the same as possible. And knowing Riz, he'll try to salvage this season and maybe get a shot at a chance to represent the Saints in the future. But it's an anxious day. Man, the families are just out of it. Guys have moved across the country, moved everywhere. Kids are in school. The kids getting it from their schoolmates that, hey, your dad got fired, whatever. I mean, it's not a good day for anyone in the organization, but I think it may have been a necessary day because, losing a team like that, not looking as good as you should look. You're in your third season. You played the worst team in the league, and man, the way you lost that game is just unfortunate. You see things happen during that game that I just couldn't believe it. 4th down and 6. Alvin Kamara got you 12 yards and got you in position to get the first down, and you throw a go ball to a player that's just
I thought it was just me.
Just a guy that look, I don't even know what a player is. So that just I think probably the powers that be said enough is enough.
Coach, you've been there. You've been in the locker room, and you've had an opportunity, and you're now leading another team. Just want to know, what do you think went wrong? I mean, the Saints had such upside. I mean, obviously injuries, but other than the injuries, what do you think happened where it's to the point to where now we're talking about firing a coach and maybe some other people to leave?
Well, here's the first thing I think you got to do. In your first year, you got a little bit of a pass. Your second year, you got to show some improvement. I think your third year, you got to have the locker room. It has to be your locker room. I look at Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, for a couple years, man, it looked bad. But all of a sudden, Dan got that locker room that third and fourth year, and away they go. They may be the best team in NFL. I just felt watching them, watching the energy, I thought it was a loss of energy. I thought I just didn't hear the right terms of the reporting, what was going on the field. The reports were they weren't blaming other guys, but it was like, well, we're going to do better next time. Generally you're like, hey, look, it's on me. I got to do better. We got to play better. We should win this game. Here we come. I never heard anyone say next game we win in the next one.
Yeah.
I never heard a stance like that. And so I think the locker room kind of got a little bit out of it. And then, you got your star back, Alvin Kamara, who I didn't see the body language that I anticipated. I think some players got old on them, and in the end, it kind of caught up with Dennis.
And you a guy, DA, you've known him for a long time. How much does personality play into this in terms of the locker room and being able to get the most out of players, believing and being able to get the most out of his players?
I think you got to have two facets. I think if you're a strong personality as a coach, I think you can win the locker room if they believe in you. If not, you got to have some assistants around you that can grab a guy or two, or can love a guy or two, or do some things to get you got to know who the main players are in that locker room. And, everybody say, well, Double D, I'm talking about DeMario Davis. I call him Double D, been knowing him. Cam Jordan, Matthews may be the older players, but they may not be the voices in the locker room. So you got to always have someone that is the voice in the locker room that's saying, hey, look, we're going to bring this thing together and we win. And if we got to stay after practice longer, let's stay after, or we need to meet longer, whatever we need to do, coach. And I never heard, coach, we got your back. I never heard that out of this crew. So I wonder who has the locker room.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, coach. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there, but let me ask you, coach. A lot of people say, like one of our people who chimed in, Terrell, says that it starts at the top. A lot of people have talked about, General Manager Mickey Loomis and how long they've been there. Maybe the Saints need to start over. Maybe they need to start fresh from top to bottom.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Understand, you got to understand the strengths of what you got. I don't know that. I was surprised that they made the move, and then I wasn't. I was surprised because the Saints generally will let a coach get through the season, but then I wasn't surprised that they did make that move because it was bad. The last couple games I thought were pretty wasn't what I expect the Saints to be in any facet of the NFL. The one thing that we know with Mickey is a cap guy, and when you evaluate the cap, you say, okay, what's the philosophy of the cap? Are you getting the most out of what you're doing in the cap? I think for years I thought that he did a good job with the cap, and that's what his background is. Now, you may see him go, or you may see some other guys go. Some guys come from scouting. Terry Fontenot at Atlanta, he came out of Saints. He came out of scouting. So different deal. Now, if Atlanta doesn't start getting some players, then I think Terry would go. But if the cap is good, and each year, I would say Kai Hawley has done a great job with their cap because they would get players, not necessarily saying they were good players, but they would get players that within the cap that you say, they got, Chase Young, for instance, or man, they got Kamara again, or right, wrong, or indifferent, the decision to sign Derek Carr, within the cap, they got the quarterback that they felt was a good quarterback. Now, whether it was or wasn't, I don't know. It'd be hard for me to be Dennis Allen because the guy I'm at Los Angeles and the guy kind of got me fired there. I'm not going to sign him and bring it to my next team.
Right. I think that's all great to hear, and I think people, from everyday fans, we watch the game and we have all of these opinions, and we don't really know the ins and outs of all of that. But as we think about the future of the Saints organization, Coach, you've been there, you know these guys personally. Where should the Saints be looking at next to give the people, the Who Dat Nation, like what they aspire to have as Saints fans?
I think it's a franchise that I think they got to get younger. Just watching it as a fan, I still got friends over there. I think all of a sudden, man, I think from the end of Sean Payton leaving to right now, this moment in time, I think the team has gotten old. I think they need some freshness in there. I think there needs to be a renewed energy. I didn't like the overall energy of the team. I don't think they were as physical of the team that their draft choices said. You go out, you get a couple first-round draft picks in an offensive line. You expect to have a physical offensive line, or a dominating, I would say, offensive line. I just have not seen it yet throughout the Saints. And I think Alvin Kamara, who's I think the best player on the team, I think his clock is ticking a little bit. Hopefully they don't. I love Alvin. You watch him, man. He's the bright spot on that team for a couple years when he's healthy. And I thought, man, you look at yards after contact, he's doing it. Out the backfield, he's doing it. He's playing receiver, he's doing it. You watch him in protection and blocking, he's doing it. I just don't want Alvin not to get an opportunity to win a Super Bowl ring, nor do I want him to be the bell cow, the only one, you know. And,
Yes.
and I think that's, you know, that's starting to show up. You know, DA is a defensive guy. I think defensively, I think they let me down a little bit. You know, just because you let a team like Carolina score 20-some points on that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You know, so those are things that I would definitely look into. I think they need a strong coach to come in there, you know, and get it right, bust some heads, you know, and practices probably need to be a little bit hard. I hadn't seen their practices, but man, it can't be country club, and I mean we got to start and let's get some togetherness and get some fans back in the stands, get the city going again about this New Orleans Saints organization.
Do they, before we let you go, Coach, do they get on the trading block? Do they open up, maybe make some trades? Because
I think you have to. I think the NFL nowadays, man, you build through the draft. You know, you build through the draft, and right now what they're doing. The bottom line, Reggie, you know the stats. They're the worst team in the NFL. So everybody's on the trading blocks. You know, look, you may be able to get some picks for Olave. You know, look, if somebody want to take a guy with a couple concussions and don't say I want to trade him, but man, look, I would do it. You know, Alvin, I'm looking to Alvin. I'm looking to see, you know, hey, a couple of these teams. I'm gonna call
Lattimore. Lattimore.
Look, that was one that I thought early on in the season you can get great value for him. You said you love Alontae Taylor and other corners coming into the season. I thought, you know, you could get some stuff for Lattimore. But I think going into it, they went all in, and then, you know, they kind of fooled all of us the first two games that you watch. You watch them beat Carolina, you watch them beat Dallas. Everybody, you know, I walk out my neighborhood, you say, hey, Coach, we're going to the Super Bowl. And they're like, hey, watch your
Get off the hype train. They got to get off the hype train.
They were saying that in the Super Bowl. But before we let you go, Coach, can you just give, there's someone who asked in here, they were wondering where you were. Can you just give the folks an update on what you got going on with your team and all the things that you have going for you?
So right now I'm the head coach of the Houston Roughnecks. Last year I was in the 2 years ago, I started with the Houston Gamblers in the USFL. We combined leagues, and now I'm the head coach of the Houston franchise of the Roughnecks in Houston, Texas. We play in the spring. We'll start up again in February, start our season in March. There's a 10-game schedule, and we'll be in cities such as San Antonio, St. Louis, Houston, Birmingham. Birmingham has been the class of the league. I mean, they've won every league for the last 3 years. They've been Arlington. You know, all those teams are in our league, Memphis. And so very competitive league. And there was loads of players. I think it was up to over 100 players from our league got into training camps. Some of them made it, you know, in the NFL. So that's another viable option. That we're on TV all the time in the spring. If you like spring football, if you like year-round football, check us out. We'll be a pretty good team. My best receiver, Justin Hall, just getting back from, I think he was at Tampa and the Jets. So we'll have him again. Knock on wood, we'll keep him, and we'll have some players, and we'll do well this year.
We got to get us a quarterback. It's all about the quarterback.
Look, I'm waiting for you to give me one. You told me you had a couple of them. I got to just get the right one.
That's right. I'm going to send you a couple of more. We're going to work this quarterback thing out.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Reggie.
No, thank you so much for joining us, Coach. We appreciate your insight. We appreciate your knowledge, and we wish you the best in the spring. And hopefully we'll have you back to talk more about what's going on with you guys in the spring, and we can get down there and see a game. So thank you so much, Coach.
Hey, look, I got to say one thing. I'm volunteering at Ed the Car. And look, right now we #1 team in the state, and we moving about, we doing it. So don't forget about us on your show. We playing pretty good.
We definitely won't. And look, tell that quarterback to get the ball a little bit higher on his shoulder and move his hips. Come through, follow through with his hips. He's sitting on his back leg a little bit too much. That's why his ball is floating.
Look, I heard Bryce say it today, so you're absolutely right. All right.
All right, Curtis. Appreciate you, man. We'll be in touch, man. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye-bye.
All right, brother. My man, Curtis Johnson, man.
Good
to have him with us.
He's always
man. That's it. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say he's always been always good energy, good spirit, a good spirit about him. And so shout out to Coach Johnson.
I'm glad we could get his insight on you know, what it looks like when these situations kind of happen around the NFL. Because I know a lot of people say, well, the Saints fired their coach, but there's a lot that goes into that and a lot that happens in that locker room in terms of moving to the next level and the adjustments that need to be made.
Yeah, and I mean that is that. So we have some exciting things to do. Shout out to Coach Johnson. There's a lot of things that have happened today. We have what are we looking at tonight? We have the Bucks and the Chiefs.
Bucks and the Chiefs. I'm you know what? I'm picking the Bucks. I'm going with the Bucks.
All right, that's a bold pick, Unc. I'm sticking with the Chiefs. They've played us. We play the Bucks next week. We're off this week. So shout out to the Niners getting our rest. But we played the Bucks. I mean, we played the Chiefs. We have the Bucks coming up. Chiefs are undefeated. The game is in Kansas City. I don't see them losing it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So
we'll see. I'm just being a contrarian. I'm rolling with the Bucks. I'm gonna see what happens.
Yes, I like that. I like that. But before we get out of here tonight, just want to say thank you guys so much for your engagement. We also have an opportunity for you to get inside the game. So if you would like to be a sponsor of Inside the Game, this is how you become a part of action. This is how you keep us on. This is how you allow us to come before you every week with our guests and all of the things as it relates to this show. We have enjoyed being here with you guys. And so, yeah. Are you going to hit us with your famous line as we head out of here? And we will see the folks next week.
Yes, the Cowboys still suck. And if the man upstairs says the same, we'll be back at the same time and in the same place. Because as always, we take you inside the game.
Have a great night, guys.